Hello everyone, this is The Question, and I'm back with a reading log for the month of November. So I read quite a lot of stuff in the month of November. I read through some series that I've been meaning to read. So just a good mix of stuff, and not a lot that I'm going to be unhauling that I'm not going to keep in my collection for this month. So the very first thing, which I've actually already gotten rid of, I did read Wotakoi Love is Hard for Otaku, Volume 1, and I could pretty much tell within the first 20 or so pages that it wasn't my type of book, that it wasn't going to be a book for me. The dialogue, the writing wasn't great, the characters I didn't really have any interest in. So I made it about 2/3 of the way through the volume. It was a real chore to get through, so I went ahead and sold that off already. So the other book that I got that I'm going to be unhauling, I read through the first 3 volumes of Penguin and House. This one was less issues with. This one was just all right. It didn't do anything particularly well. It's basically just a slice of life about a guy and his penguin, and it's cute enough, but the characters, the penguin, they don't really, they're just kind of, everything in this 3-volume series is just average at best. It doesn't really do anything special enough to make me want to keep this in my collection and for me to reread. So it does have decent reviews on Goodreads, so some people must be connecting with it, but for me, I just thought it was all right. Nothing about it really grabbed me. Okay, so next we're going to go through the stuff that I gave 3 stars to on Goodreads. So some of these are volume 1s, and none of these I'm going to stop reading. I'm probably going to give them another volume to kind of see how I feel about them. And then these one-shots, I thought they were decent, but nothing spectacular. So starting off, we have World End Sultan Volume 1. This is by the same creator of Lucifer and the Biscuit Hammer and Spirit Circle. I do have Lucifer and the Biscuit Hammer, but I haven't started reading it yet. So this first volume, I did really enjoy the artwork, but as far as the story and stuff, this is a very jam-packed volume in my opinion. There is a ton going on, and it was really hard to keep track of everything that was going on, keeping track of the characters. I had to keep going back pages to see which character was which, because the main character here changes forms. So it was a lot, and I didn't really, I had a hard time kind of following the plot and keeping up with it. So I'll give it another volume to see if it connects with me, if it kind of, it's kind of got a lot of info dump just because it's the first volume. But yeah, I thought it was okay. Nothing spectacular in this volume 1. Okay, next we have Imaginary Volume 1. This is a romance series featuring adult characters, and we have the 2 main characters were childhood friends who both had feelings for each other. They didn't tell each other, and so now they've reconnected as adults. So this one, we got a lot of characters. The romance angle of it, this first volume, there's not really any romance going on in it. They're just kind of, reconnecting and seeing how they feel about each other. Artwork was good. I enjoyed the artwork in this. Some of the characters, none of the characters really stood out too much as being too interesting. So I did enjoy this, but it wasn't that impressive for a romance series. So I'll maybe give it another volume and see if it picks up. Okay, so next up we have Crossplay Love, Otaku Punk Volume 1. This is a cross-dressing love comedy. Features a character who dresses up as a woman and works in a maid cafe, and then another character who is more socially awkward and feels more comfortable dressing up as a woman to go out into the world. And then they both end up getting crushes on the other one. So the plot is interesting, the artwork is really nice, but the actual characters and what goes on in this first volume, I didn't really get that connected to. The romance wasn't that interesting. So I'll give it another volume. I have another volume pre-ordered, so I'll give that a chance. But this first volume was just okay. Next up, we have Volume 1 of Adam the Beginning. So this is a Titan manga. This is a new release. This is basically a kind of retelling of Astro Boy, the beginning of kind of Astro Boy's story. So, but this is not done obviously by Tezuka. This is by other people afterwards. And so What kind of sucked me into this is the cover. This cover artwork is really great. I really like the way the cat is drawn, and just the artwork on this cover is good. The actual artwork inside, I was less impressed by. I mean, it's okay. It's kind of someone doing a Tezuka, kind of trying to do Tezuka, but not doing it very well. I mean, it's like some of the characters are very Tezuka-like, but otherwise the artwork is kind of just okay. The story, same thing. I mean, it's fine. It's kind of them doing their own telling of how Astro Boy came to be, but not anywhere near as good as the Astro Boy stories that I've read by Tezuka, and definitely not as well as, you know, Urasawa did in Pluto when he kind of did his own take on a Astro Boy story. That is, you know, a million times better than anything in this first volume. But yeah, at least it's at least interested me enough where I'm going to give it a fair shot and probably read another volume or two and see if it picks up. Because like I said, I really did like this cover. The concept is good, a new origin of Astro Boy. But yeah, this first volume didn't really impress me that much. Next we have Young, Alive, in Love. This is a 3-volume series from Starfruit. And so Starfruit does a lot of one-shot series. They don't do a lot of ongoings. And so, you know, I kind of picked this one up just based on that. And so it's basically, I don't really know how to describe the story. It's kind of a love story. It's about 2 characters. One of them is obsessed with radiation. The girl can see ghosts. And so they're basically trying to figure out what's going on with these 2 water reactors in their town. And this is kind of like a radiated town. So artwork, obviously, as you can tell here, very different than kind of your standard manga. The artwork is very unique. But yeah, another one where, I mean, it's fine. I didn't connect really too much with it. The 2 characters weren't that interesting. The artwork is fine. But there's a lot of pages where there's not really any artwork, a lot of panels where it's just words, which I wasn't that impressed with. But it's a 3-volume series. I mean, if this was good, if I knew that this was like a 25-volume series or something, I would definitely probably drop it. But with it being a 3-volume series, I'm willing to finish it up and see if it gets any better. And next up, we have a one-shot. So we have Cats and Sugar Bowls. This is another one that I gave 3 stars to. This is a short story collection. It is a Yuri short story collection with more. It's got 9, like it says, 9 bite-sized stories about love between women. So this one is 15 plus, so it does have some more adult stuff in here. There is a lot of the first maybe 5 or 6 stories are all modern day. There is like a Victorian age story. There is a story that is kind of classic. You know, there's one there with like gods and they're called the Ogre and the Mountain God. So it does have a good mix of different types of stories. Not all of them work. Some of them, you know, like a lot of short story collections, this one is just okay. But I did like it enough. I like the artwork enough that I'm going to keep this in my collection. And I did add some other series by this mangaka to my wish list to try to give them a shot and see if some of their ongoings are more my style. But this one was good. It's a decent Yuri one-shot. Okay, and lastly in the 3-star pile, we have another one-shot. We have Look Back. This is story and art by Tatsuki Fujimoto. This is by the same creator of the beloved series Chainsaw Man. If you've listened to my reading or watched my reading logs previously, you know that I read through all of Chainsaw Man and I did not really care for it. And everyone kind of recommended this book as the one that would kind of make me, you know, they said at least give this book a chance even if you didn't enjoy Chainsaw Man. And after reading Look Back, I feel like this creator probably just isn't for me. I really was not very impressed with this one-shot. It was okay, but definitely way overhyped as far as one-shots go. The artwork, I'm not a big fan of his artwork. He does do eyes very well, but the character designs are pretty bland. Just the artwork in general, it's okay, but it's, you know, nothing special. And then the story, it's fine. It's nothing I haven't seen before, and it ends pretty poorly. So, you know, just fine. I'll keep it in my collection. I do like one-shots. I didn't dislike this where I feel like I'm hauling it, like Chainsaw Man. But because it's a one-shot, it's definitely something maybe later on down the line I'll give it another shot. But that was everything that I read that was in my kind of 3-star ratings on Goodreads. Okay, so now we're going to move on to everything that I gave 4 stars to on Goodreads. So we're going to start off with another one-shot, and that is See You Tomorrow at the Food Court. This is basically about 2 school-age young women who, barely interact at school, but every day after school they kind of meet together at this food court in this mall to rant and rave about their day. And so it's basically a slice of life where you just have these 2 girls kind of talking about what's going on in their lives. And I found these 2 characters very interesting. I really enjoyed this. It does have a lot of dialogue, so if you are one of those people who does not like reading in manga, I mean, as you can see here, there's quite a lot of word balloons. But yeah, I just really enjoyed these 2 characters and getting to know about them. I was pretty disappointed that this was just a one-shot and not a continuing series. But I did read afterwards online that there is going to be a follow-up to this, so I'm really looking forward to that. So I definitely recommend this if you're into one-shots. See You Tomorrow at the Food Court. Next we have some Volume 1s. We got Dinosaur Sanctuary Volume 1. This is a new slice of life dinosaur series, kind of Jurassic Parky without the dinosaurs escaping and killing everybody. So this is basically about a kind of failing dino park where this new employee takes over who really loves dinosaurs, and she kind of works with the staff and is trying to get this park to be more popular. So, just a cute series. Like I said, a cute slice of life series. I really like the characters. There's some really good, they have an actual research consultant into dinosaurs. So in between the chapters, there's kind of a little page where they kind of talk about the research that went into this series. And this just a very nice, cute series. If you're into slice of life, dinosaurs, definitely check this one out. Okay, so next up we have a really cute sports romance series. This is Blue Box Volume 1. This one was very close to getting 5 stars for me. I really enjoyed this one. This one really surprised me. I wasn't expecting that much out of it. It basically follows 2 high school kids. The boy is on the badminton team, and he has a crush on an older girl who's on the basketball team. And it's basically them just interacting with each other in this first volume. Their friends, kind of his friend group trying to get him to actually tell her his feelings. And it's just a cute romance series, a good sports series also. I don't read a lot of sports series, even though Slam Dunk is one of my favorites. But yeah, I did really enjoy this one. I thought it was really cute, really good romance between the 2 characters, and I'm really looking forward to see where this goes in the future. Okay, so next up we have My Wife Has No Emotion Volume 1. This is a volume that I did not pre-order. I actually found Volume 1 at a used store. Just kind of bought it on a whim. I didn't know too much about it. I didn't even know from the pre-orders when I saw it solicited that it was about a robot wife. But obviously from this cover I can tell that. And so, at least in this first volume, this is just kind of a cute series. It's about a single guy who ends up having a robot made for his house, and one day he jokes with her that they should be husband and wife, and she takes it seriously. And so, not getting into the moral things of whether or not someone should date a robot, so I'm not going to get into that moral thing, but at least in this first volume, it's just kind of a cute romance series between the 2. There's nothing too adult that goes on. They just basically act like husband and wife. So she makes dinner for him, he makes dinner for her. They go out they do picnics, they go out. And one thing that's really cool in this first volume that kind of subverts kind of tropes that I was expecting is that his sister ends up coming over surprisingly, and he just, instead of it being a dragged out story of him trying to hide from his family that he is, basically married to this robot, he instantly admits it. And his sister is very happy for him and supportive. And I thought that was a good kind of change of pace from what you would kind of get in a story like this. So I went ahead and picked up volumes 2 and 3 in the last Right Stuff sale. So I'm going to continue with this one. Okay, next up we have another cute romance book, and that is Hi, I'm a Witch and My Crush Wants Me to Make a Love Potion, Volume 1. This is the manga version. I guess there's a light novel of this, and this is the manga version. And it's basically about this witch here. who is requested to make a love potion by a guy in town that she has a crush on, and he doesn't know anything about her, and she doesn't know why he needs this love potion made, but obviously she's kind of upset because she has a crush on him. And so it just kind of goes into this first volume. It's got a lot of info. We learn a lot about the world, about how witches are treated, about the two main characters, and it goes into, there's chapters that are from his point of view and from her point of view that kind of go into why he's getting a love potion made and the kind of moral things about a love potion. And so yeah, so this first volume, cute, really nice characters, really nice artwork. I'm definitely going to continue with this. Okay, next up we have The Summer You Were There. This one is a volume 1, and this one there's a lot of, I'm not going to go too much story related in this one because there is a lot of story stuff that can be spoiled with me discussing it too much in detail. So this one surprised me by how much I enjoyed it, because I just happened to have read a review or saw someone talk about this volume where they mentioned that it was the worst volume that they read all year. So that kind of threw me off, and then I'm really surprised by that reaction, because I mean, it's just a cute, you know, kind of Yuri series. I didn't really see anything in it that would make me say this was the worst thing that I read. It's basically about two high schoolers. One is writing a novel, this one here on the left, and when she gets to the end of it, it actually accidentally falls into the hands of this other character, and so she kind of reads it and they kind of get into a relationship because of that. So I'm not going to, I don't want to go into too much detail because there's a lot of big plot points in this that I don't want to spoil. But yeah, this was a very cute volume 1. It's not just kind of your slice of life. There's definitely a lot more going on story-wise, so I'm not going to mention those. But I did really enjoy this one, and looking forward to where it goes. Okay, so next up we have a BL romance series. This is 2 volumes. So we have Restart After Coming Back Home, and then the follow-up, Restart After Growing Hungry. So this features 2 main characters who are both adults. The man on the left, he gets fired from his job in Tokyo, returns to his hometown to move back in with his parents and kind of figure out his life. And he ends up running into this other new character who is in his town, who actually got adopted and kind of becomes a part of the town after he had moved away. So he doesn't have any prior knowledge of this person, and they basically become friends and end up becoming more. So this is just another in a long line this month of kind of cute romance series. That's pretty much what this is. There's not a lot of not a lot of bad stuff goes on in this. It's kind of a fairly straightforward romance series. The 2 main characters are really cute and they get along well. The first volume has a good wrap up, so if you only want to read the first volume, you can. The second volume is like a few years later and just kind of continues the relationship. So yeah, so I'm not going to go into too much depth on what goes on in this story, but yeah, just a really cute BL romance series. Okay, so next up we have an Osamu Tezuka book that I read, and that is Bamba. This is a newer Kodansha release. It has this really interesting kind of page. A lot of people I saw were not happy, but I really like this, how it's got kind of this weird edges to the paper where it kind of feels like it's an old book. You don't see that in a lot of manga. But yeah, otherwise, this is a series that I really hadn't heard anything about. It's gotten kind of mediocre reviews on Goodreads, kind of a lesser Tezuka, and I really enjoyed it. I really liked, he does a kind of a distinct art style, kind of different, especially in the eyes from kind of his standard drawing style. And I really enjoyed how he draws the horse and kind of how the way the characters are drawn in this series. It's basically about a boy who falls in love with his teacher, and then he finds out a secret about her that makes him kind of get into this blind rage. It's a shorter story, and it just kind of ends, like there's not like a fantastic ending. But if you're a Tezuka fan, definitely check this one out if you're into his one-shots. I really enjoyed this one. Okay, and lastly in the 4-star pile, we have The Walking Man Expanded Edition by Jiro Taniguchi. And so this expanded edition is basically a It adds back in the color pages that were removed in the previous version, and then it also is is right to left in the normal kind of manga style, whereas the original release had been they had swapped it. So yeah, so this is kind of, if you've read any Taniguchi before, this is kind of, you'll definitely recognize his artwork. Really nice artwork, really detailed backgrounds, really good characters, as you can see here. This one here does not have a ton of dialogue. This is basically follows this man as he kind of goes on walks. So, I mean, there is dialogue, there's interactions with his wife, kind of interactions with people he meets, but the main story is him kind of just going on adventures, throughout this town. And so yeah, so I did really enjoy this one. What kept me from giving it a 5-star is there are a couple stories in here, a couple little things that happen in here that kind of I didn't really think fit in with the story and kind of took me out of it a little bit. They, where it took it into a place where I wasn't really, the stuff I was enjoying about this story was kind of the way that he interacts with nature and the way that he interacts with this town. And there was some stuff that kind of takes that innocence away from it, from kind of the story that I didn't enjoy as much. But definitely a recommended Taniguchi. I'd still, at least out of the ones I've read, A Journal of My Father is my favorite so far. But this is definitely another good one, just not up to that same level, in my opinion. Okay, so now starting with the books I gave 5 stars to on Goodreads, we have The Po Clan. So I read through both of these larger Fantagraphics hardcovers, both by Motohagayo. So this is The Po Clan Volume 1. And this first volume basically is about a brother and sister who are children and end up becoming vampires and becoming a part of this Po Clan. So as vampires, just like in most lore, they stay the same age and they don't age. So it's basically them interacting with townspeople, trying not to let people know that they're vampires. And that's, it's kind of an episodic story. Each kind of storyline has different characters, different time periods, with kind of an overarching storyline. But yeah, just a really, really well done story. I was engaged. The characters are very interesting. The artwork is fantastic. If you haven't read a lot of Motohagayo, kind of similar to Rosa de Versailles as far as the artwork goes. This is Volume 1, and this is Volume 2. So Volume 2 just came out fairly recently. Volume 1's been out for a couple years, so there was definitely a huge in-between between Volumes 1 and 2 being released. And the second volume is more about the main brother and another boy that becomes his friend, that becomes a part of the Po Clan. And so it's basically like their 2 adventures. And so yeah, I did enjoy the first volume a little bit more than I did the second one. I like the first one a little bit better, but both really good. Some really nice color pages in these. The only real disappointment I can say with this 2-volume set is a lot of these Fantagraphic books where they're taking on kind of seminal, like this is a classic 70s story. You'll get a lot of supplemental material, and this has none. So there's no kind of afterword, there's no interviews, there's no kind of background information about the series. It's just the series, which for these being really thick, really nice hardcovers, I was expecting at least a few pages of that. But otherwise, really great Motohagayo work, and very glad to have these in my collection. Okay, so next up we have a 2-volume short story collection, and that is Tan Pinchu by Hiroki Endo, the creator of the critically acclaimed Eden, the science fiction series. That is long out of print, very expensive. This 2-volume series is out of print also, but not quite as expensive. Volume 1 is the one that I had a harder time finding, so the only copy I have is this ex-library copy that's in kind of rough shape. The Volume 2, I actually found a brand new copy for a really good price, and it was still sealed. These are both explicit content mature, so I'm not going to show anything inside. But yeah, these are probably one of the best short story collections that I've ever read. I did kind of prefer the stories in Volume 1 over Volume 2, but they are both really good. Promji actually has this on his list of his favorite series of all time, and I definitely can see what he saw in this. It kind of makes me sad that more of Endo's work isn't available in English and isn't still in print, because after reading these, I really would love to be able to pick up Eden. So hopefully at some point it gets reprinted. But yeah, if you can find these for a cheap price or a reasonable price, definitely pick them up. Two really great short story collections, fantastic artwork, and yeah, so that was those. Okay, so next we have a one-shot, and that is Drip Drip. This is by the same mangaka who does Beastars. I'm still waiting on that final volume to come out of Beastars, and then I will go ahead and read that. So this is actually the first thing I've read by this creator, and after reading this one-shot, I am way more hyped to read by Beastars because this was great. I really like the creator's artwork. Her writing style is really good. This story is basically about our lead character, who anytime that she comes in contact with anything dirty, she gets a massive nosebleed. And so it's basically about her trying to find love and romance when anytime she gets in any sort of touching or any sort of relationship where there's contact, she massively bleeds all over them. So definitely a very adult series, very funny. I just really enjoyed this. This was easily the best one-shot that I read this month. And it's got a nice backup short story about a kind of a disturbing Santa Claus story that I guess is getting made out into its own bigger story. So I'm looking forward to that. But yeah, highly recommend Drip Drip. Okay, so next up, continuing the 5-star books I read this month, we have the new printing of Onward Towards Our Noble Deaths by Shigeru Mizuki. This is actually the first Mizuki book I've read. I've slowly been collecting his stuff, and I was not disappointed with this first volume. This is basically a personal story. He was involved in the Second World War, and this is a story about the Second World War. He does mention in the afterwards that he took some liberties with what happened, but it is very autobiographical about the type of stuff that went on while he was in the war. And it is a very, there is comedy in this, but it is a very serious story, talking, kind of showing you the horrors of war. It's very detailed backgrounds with some more, the actual characters are drawn more cartoonish, which I really found interesting. Just a very well done story. I really enjoyed this. Definitely gives me a look into the creator. And like I mentioned with the Pokemon releases, one thing I really enjoyed about this is that it had a really good introduction, had a really good afterward interview with the creator. I really enjoy that kind of those kind of additions when we're talking about a classic manga release. So definitely highly recommended if you're into classic manga, and that was Onward Towards Our Noble Deaths. Okay, and lastly, the best thing I read all month is a series that instantly popped up into my top 10 favorite series of all time, and that is the sci-fi series Twin Spica. I read all 12 volumes this month, and this is basically, it's considered sci-fi because it's kind of the not so distant future where space travel is more prevalent, and it basically follows these group of kids that join this space school where they all want to become astronauts. So it basically follows this main character, Asumi, as she and her friends, go through school and try to graduate to become astronauts. So the characters in this are fantastic. This is probably the best group of characters, especially school-age characters, that I think I've ever read in manga. And Asumi, the main character, is just fantastic. Very optimistic, very positive, just one of my favorite characters in all of manga. I would definitely put her in my top 5 characters after reading this. Great covers, really great artwork. Unfortunately, this series is out of print, which sucks because more people definitely should read this. This came out quite a while ago, I think before the recent kind of manga boom that's happened again, where mangas kind of became more popular. So I think if this came out, within the last year or two, this would definitely be a far more popular series. But I don't think it did very well in English. And I don't want to go into too many specifics about the storyline, but it is very well done, very emotional. I teared up, which doesn't happen too often with manga in some of these later volumes. and just really good conclusion. Wraps up really well, which doesn't always happen in manga. If you can find this for a decent price, or if you can't and you read this online, definitely check this out. I really love this series, and these volumes as they go get a lot thicker. This final volume, really thick. But yeah, can't say enough good stuff about Twin Spica. Like I said, I don't want to go too much into detail about the story because I don't want to spoil it for anybody who does plan on reading it, because there's a lot of great emotional beats, a lot of great character interactions, and yeah, really great artwork. Let me go through volume 1 and show you a little bit of the artwork. Very distinct characters. And yeah, just a really good story. And yeah, so that is Twin Spica. Definitely check that out. But yeah, that was everything I read in the month of November. Like I said, a bunch of really great stuff, not too much stuff that I didn't really care for. But I'm very happy with this month. I read through quite a bit of stuff, and I'm already starting my December reading. One of the big series that I wanted to knock out in the month of December, spoiler, that I've already started reading is Akira. I have the box set of that I haven't read, so I've been reading that. So that will be in my December reading log. But otherwise, if you enjoyed this, please like and subscribe. I do videos like this regularly, haul videos. I just did a giant updated collection video. But that was it, and everybody have a great rest of your day.